off on.
You're too cheap. That is the title for today's podcast. And I'm pretty damn sure, I'm pretty confident that I can say that to everybody listening. Andy, welcome along again, my co-host and partner. How are we doing, Andy?
Good. This is the hot topic, this one. This is, we bump a lot of heads in the group on this. I would argue that every heating engineer, electrician, whatever it is in the UK, is not charging what they are worth, what their value is worth.
This is always a topic for discussion, and anyone that has followed me for any length of time will know how passionate and how much I have tried to push out into the world about our pricing correctly. It's just such, you see so many people busting a ball day in, day out and never actually making any money. So the statement, "You're too cheap," Andy, explain.
So, in a nutshell, you're not charging enough. You might think you are. You might think you're charging well compared to other people in your area that you might view as being competitors, but you're not charging enough for what your business needs to charge, and what the market allows you to charge, because that obviously is a variable in 2025. So a big one we get, so as new lads come into the group, and this is probably true for most, generally when they go self-employed, they will ring X number of other companies in the area and generally go gut shot. That's what I found to be the common denominator. So it's like, I don't want to be too cheap, but I don't want to be the most expensive because I want to get some new customers. So that seems to be the recurring theme. The problem in reality, and we've gone over this at length, is that most guys don't really know how to break the numbers down. So I had a big debate with an older fella on one of the Facebook forums, when a lad posted in the group saying, "I've just gone self-employed, thinking about charging 500 a day, day rate to domestic customers. Is this enough?" Usual kind of questions. So my comment was, just be mindful that you would walk away with half of that. And a few guys said, yeah, that's a good point. And a few other guys, this older fella in particular, said, "No, you're way off. You talk your ass, basically." So me being the quick-fingered ChatGPT user that I am, got it to write it out in a nice, easy form. But there's so many things that need to be taken into account with your pricing that most guys just miss. And a conversation, and I've actually had this conversation when I've been hiring for the heating business, and I've spoke to lads who've been self-employed, and the salaries are good within that business. But it's always, but I make more than that on my own. And my response to that normally is, "But do you?" "Well, we did 100 grand last year." "In what?" And it's almost always in turnover, because all of those little costs get missed. And I think that seems to just be the issue. Most guys don't understand on one side of the coin what all the business costs are. And on the other side of the coin, they don't realize how much value they're bringing or can bring to customers when they formulate their pricing. So again, we touched on this on the other episode, but I would argue that the work carried out on site for, let's use a job in business as a reference. So let's say you're doing a lot of boiler servicing, Are you going changing a lot of sockets, anything like that? The work that you do on site is probably only about 50% of the value that you can bring. Not saying that your business is there at that point, but that's 50% of the value that you can bring if you're bringing value in other areas. So, for example, if you're using job management software, if you've got someone taking the calls in the office, if you're using a quoting software, things that, the job management software giving the customers booking windows and reminders when they're on the way, that's bringing value. And I think a lot of lads struggle with that because they see it as just the work done on site is the value and that's it. And that bring value in other ways. But in today's day and age, a lot of people see much more value in the other areas. So obviously we live in a sort of Amazon Prime kind of era. And we all know when we order something that when it's going to be here, and you said yourself before, you've got a package coming at some point today. You know roughly when it's going to be there, and people want that now. People expect that now, I would say, and you can bring massive value to people by offering something like that, a booking software that gives a 2-3 hour booking window, a reminder the day before, a reminder the day of, a text message when the engineer's on his way with tracking, like what ServiceMate does. So yeah, I think it's having that open mind to you can charge considerably more than you're currently charging if you bring value in other areas, and there's a lot of ways that you can add to what you think is the only way to bring value.
Yeah, definitely. But it fundamentally starts with, like, the problem starts with the fact that as an industry, the trades and construction industry, and again, it's probably exactly the same across the board. We're not taught this stuff. We're not taught how to run a business. So when again, using myself as an example, and the hundreds, if not thousands of people I've worked with over the years, when people go out on their own, they basically do what you said. They ring around a few people. They use their own knowledge of what their company charged before, who fundamentally probably have never been taught how to do it either. So it's like a compounding effect of the being driven by uneducated people around pricing. So it just passes on. The problem just gets passed to the next generation, because people don't fundamentally understand how to work out what that price is. So if you ask most people, they will say they won't be able to answer why they price. Fundamentally, they'll fluff it up and say, oh, it's what the market price is, it's the average, blah, 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 blah. When that is all irrelevant. Ultimately, your business has to charge what you need the business to charge. And that comes back to understanding the costs in your business. If you don't take the time to list out, document what it costs for your business to run every hour, every day, every month, every year, then how the hell can you ever know what to price? You can't. You are literally just pissing in the wind if you are just plucking a figure out of your arse. And it frustrates me because it's not complicated. It's just lack of people understanding what is needed. And it really is as simple as getting a pen and paper and writing down all of what. So in the official terminology is overheads, right? But let's just say, what does it cost you to run your business every single month? And you list down your insurance, your fuel, your van costs, your pension contributions, your tax obligations, your any office equipment, your fuel, whatever it costs, you list down your overheads. That's stage one, isn't it, Andy? Is understanding what the cost of the business is. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%. And just want to echo that statement you just said a minute or so ago. Knowing what I know now really blows my mind that when you ask someone, well, what do you charge? Well, this much. I'm like, but why? What on what metric? And like I said before, it's almost always, well, that's kind of the going rate, isn't it? But as you've just said, every business is different. What our heating business charges is not what the sole trader guy down the road with an old van and all his tools paid for and his van paid for and whatever. He doesn't need to charge that. You know what I mean? It's a strange concept to me now, that people don't work out what they would charge with the right metrics, and they generally just go, well, that seems about right.
Yeah. And so just to go back a step before we sort of go off in, because me and Andy both like tangents, so I want to try and get my point across here a little bit. So once you've worked out your costs, that's not just the end of it. You know, you've got to have some idea of what you actually want to earn. Yeah. So as an engineer, whether you're a heating engineer, whether you're an electrician, whether you're a carpenter, if you're out on the tools and working, or whatever work you're doing, if you're in the office and you're off the tools, that deserves a salary. Yeah, that deserves a baseline income for the work that you do. So that's like the second stage. You work out your cost, you work out, right, what's the minimum? What should I be earning if I was to pick myself up and go and work in Andy's business? What would the going rate be for that, right? Once you've got that number, you've then got to think, well, actually, I'm not just here to make a salary. If I just wanted to make a salary or a baseline income, I could go and work. I could go and British Gas. I could go and work for Eon or whatever. So you also then need to make a business. You need to make profit, because fundamentally, if you want to run a business, you have to be making profit. Otherwise, you've just got a job. So those are the three key ingredients to get started with, I'd say, is the cost of the business, what you as the owner should be earning to run that business, whether it's on the tools, off the tools, or a hybrid of the two. And then ultimately, what level of profit do you actually want to make? And everyone is different. Someone would be happy with 20 grand profit at the end of the year. Some people will want 200 grand at the end of the year. You know, there's no right or wrong. It's what do you feel you deserve and what you can achieve in this business of yours. Once you've got those three, you can then start to put it together. Okay, there's some complications to this, and you know, you have to work out how many billable hours and all of this jazz that comes with it. So this isn't an episode to go right into the weeds, but just while we're on this, I have created a free tool that everybody can get access to, where you can start this process, right? It's called the pricing calculator. There'll be a link somewhere around this video. This will guide you through working out your costs, so stage one, adding what you want to earn as an engineer or off the tools person, whatever it might be that you are, and then ultimately adding your profit. And what it's going to do is it's going to spit out, not only is it going to spit out some parameters of where you need to be in the charging, what you need to be charging, it's also going to factor in things like the tax implications, the pension contributions if you've got staff, and all of this other fancy dancy stuff. So anybody that is listening to this or watching this and you can't answer that question, why do you charge what you charge, go to this free tool, plug in your numbers and see what the reality is, see where you should be charging. I'm not, like I said, this isn't a session on how to use this all. It's quite self-explanatory, but I just wanted to show you that there is a simple way this works on your phone and your desktop. But it's very, very important. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that I got those 3 fundamental steps. But that's not just it, you know, because knowing what you should charge is one part of, you know, of running a business. But there's also things like inflation. Yeah. So for those that don't know what inflation is, in a layman's term, you know, if you have a pound coin, if you have a pound, right? Over time, that pound's value, as in what it will buy you, becomes less. And that's due to inflation. And inflation is the secret profit killer in all industries, but never more so than the trades and construction industry. So let me just bring up this. Again, you can get access to this. I wrote a full report on this a couple of years ago. I just want to showcase it while I've got you guys watching and listening. So if you're listening, obviously you're not going to see this. So find the link and download it. But I put in some work and I factored in over a 20-year period from 2002, because that's when I entered the industry. And when I wrote this report, it was 2022. So I factored in the average costs back in 2002 to where they should be in 2022. And inflation's gone up even more since then. So these numbers are out of date a little bit. But as you can see, you know, if you didn't raise your prices with inflation every year, you would be nearly 50 grand a year worse off. And £50,000 for a small business. The numbers that you're looking at here are based on a small 1 or 2 man band business. So they're not big numbers. They're realistic numbers for a lot of the people that are watching and listening. Could you imagine 50 grand extra in your bank if you had just raised your prices each year with inflation? Honestly, people, you need to listen to this, and you need to read this report. You need to soak up what me and Andy are going to be discussing today. But inflation is one of the biggest things that people neglect. So make sure if there's anything you're going to do going forward, it's raise your prices with inflation as a bare minimum. So sorry, Andy, went on a bit of a deep dive there. What's your thoughts?
So again, we've got a whole another podcast on mindset, but in my opinion, it all stems from mindset. When it comes to pricing. So there's a big lack of self-worth in the trades industry, construction industries, because so many of us ended up here through poor performance in the education system, let's call it.
Yeah.
So that breeds a lack of confidence, and you don't have the right mindset. And it always shocks a lot of people when I say, you know, you can charge the same as a solicitor for what you do. Solicitors are generally among the most confident people, and they don't bat an eyelid when they charge £200 an hour for you to go in and have a consultation. For me to tell the lads that you can charge £200 an hour is just an alien concept to them.
Yeah,
because they don't view it as supply and demand. They view it as, well, that's what I'm worth, and I think that's fundamentally where the problem comes from, in my opinion. And then that combined with there's a fear factor of losing customers, and one of the most it's a lesson that you taught me from the beginning, even though it didn't apply to me because I didn't have an existing customer base. But it stuck with me so much so that your customers of the past might not be the right customers for you for the future, and they're probably not the ones to take your business forward. And what happens is lads get too scared of upping the prices for fear of losing their existing customers, and as a result, they take the hit on inflation.
Yeah.
And that's the kick in the stones, because, well, I don't want to up my prices in case I lose some customers because I'm just started to get a bit of traction. But you're now paying to keep those customers, and that like when we sit down with some of the lads in Alliance and we have this conversation, like, oh shit, I never really thought about it like that. So you always need to up your prices, but then there also has to be what I sort of coined to be a degree of a customer phase running all of the time. Once you start to lift your prices, you'll start to see the customers who are only with you because you're so cheap, and then they will start to fade away and they'll find another cheap guy, because loyalty is difficult to come by in the trades, despite what some guys might think. And as a result, you need to be bringing in new customers. And that's what we always teach is the easiest way to do it. Implement some marketing. If you lack a little bit of confidence to up those prices, you choose a point in time where from that point forward, any new customer that rings you, you charge the new price. And what will happen with time is your diary will get a bit fuller, and then you'll realize, well, I'm reaching capacity now. What should I do? And once you've reached capacity and you've brought in new customers at this new price, you can then see, well, actually, those pre-existing customers of the past are now less valuable to the business than the new ones at the higher price. So you can start to phase them into the new pricing structure. And that it needs to be like you just said, Wayne, it needs to be a constant thing year on year. And if you track that over the years, then let's say you was really cheap and you was charging 75 quid for a boiler service, and then you bring your new customers in at 80, and then the following year you go 85, you go 90, you go 95, and you keep going until you've either got customers that have moved along that pathway with you, or you've got customers who have bailed because they didn't want to be paying this new pricing. And at that point, I would argue that then they had no degree of loyalty. They were with you because you were only charging 75 quid for a boiler service. And once you start to get to a more competitive price, then they've decided to leave. But like, I think that's part of the intrinsic problem again with mindset. It's the mindset of, oh, I shouldn't have to do any marketing. You know, I want to build a business through word of mouth. That doesn't work because you get stuck in that trap of, and to compound that a little bit more, word of mouth travels considerably faster through pricing than it does through quality of work, unfortunately. So when you're super cheap and you go above and beyond and you bring probably way too much value for the price that you're charging, that will spread very quickly. And you'll end up with a very full diary. And again, we have got some lads in the group that are really charging low money, 75 quid for a boiler service. And as a result, the diaries are very, very full and they're at capacity, and they've come to us because they're stressed. I'm too busy. What should I do? And almost always, if you've reached that level of capacity in the diary, the quickest and most logical solution is to increase your prices, because you'll cut away some of that shite. And you increase your prices, you bring your pricing up to a more competitive number. Let's just keep it simple and say up to 100 quid. You'll trim away. So you'll trim away some of that low shite that we just spoke about. You know what I mean? You could increase your prices by 30%. You lose 10% of your customers. You're still in a much, much better financial position, but you're now more time rich as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it actually makes me sad, some of the stories that I hear, like over the last sort of 5 to 7 years that I've been sort of public and doing this sort of stuff. The amount of hard-working, honest, reliable, solid blokes that are busting a ball for these customers when they're not getting the rewards. You know, they're still, barely. Obviously, we're not like anyone in this industry working for themselves. You know, we're in a lucky position. We're in a Western country. You know, we're not poor, but you should be better off. You know, year on year, you should be getting a better quality of life. You should be earning more money. You should be able to have those holidays that you've earned. And it makes me sad when I see these men, and because it doesn't just end with not having enough money in the pocket, because then that puts stress. They're working all the time. That stress then can lead to anxieties, that's problems at home and health worries and everything that then spirals from it. Money isn't the answer, but it certainly helps if you're not worried about money all of the time. And fundamentally, it is changeable. And yes, it's hard. Like with any decision, you know, it's hard to make that decision, but I can pretty much guarantee, right? If you took a stance today, if you listen to what we've spoke about so far and you go, do you know what? Enough's enough. I'm going to put my prices up 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever you decide. And you just commit. This is a little challenge to anyone watching and listening. The next 10 phone calls that you have, tell them the new fucking price, right? I would bet a lot of money that you're going to get 70 to 80% of those, if not more, because you'll be surprised that whether you're 80 quid or 95, it ain't making much difference in that customer perception. You know, I understand there is a bit more of a barrier when you start going over the 100 mark, but hundreds of men in our groups have exceeded that £100 mark and gone on from strength to strength. We have people charging £150 plus now, you know, an hour. So it is achievable, and this isn't London pricing. You know, you might be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I can't fucking charge that. I'm in, I don't know, some place somewhere." Right? But Wigan, yeah, I use Andy's. Yeah, oh, in Wigan, I can't do that. It's just a working class northern town. Trust me, you can. Right? Yes, in London, it's probably a bit easier to do it, and the baseline is a lot higher because London's London. But there are people now across the country well in excess of £100 per service or per hour, whatever you want to do it. So I don't want to hear your bullshit excuses that you can't in your area. You can't because you're not allowing yourself to do it. So just do a test, right? 10 customers. Worst case, right? Worst case, imagine you lose 5 of them. It ain't going to sink the ship, is it? Right? And you can message me and say, Wayne, you're a twat. You got it all wrong. I lost every job, blah, blah, blah. But I'm pretty certain from my experience and from the amount of people that I've spoke to on this subject, you won't be. You'll be messaging me saying, God's sake, Wayne, why didn't I hear this 5 years ago? You know, trust me, you've got to do it. Don't tell me you can't until you've tried, right? If you try and it doesn't work, completely different discussion. Then it might be because you haven't got the reputation, you haven't got the exposure, you're not building enough trust with that customer. There's all different reasons why. But until you try, at first, just simply adding some numbers to that hourly charge or price for the job, then I don't want to hear any bullshit excuses. All right, I want you to try it and see if it and see it work in your area.
Because I think just to lead on from that, definitely go away and do that, what Wayne said, but just repeat what I said before. Do it with the new customers for your metrics. Don't do it with your existing customers and then go, fucking hell, everyone's binned me off. Do it with the new ones, because your old ones be set in the ways of this pricing structure that you've been using. You do it with the new ones, they won't have had this low pricing previously. They won't be used to it. Do it with the new ones, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, I think. But again, just what you're saying, like, and this is something that we're both very, very passionate about. There is not a shortage of hardworking lads in the trades in the UK. That is not the problem, fundamentally, not at all. If anything, I would say in some ways it becomes detrimental, because the willingness to graft means, well, yeah, I'll do another 2 jobs today. And so many lads will come in and they're doing 14 jobs a day, 6 days a week, and then go, oh, I'm way better than when I was employed. And the reality is they're not. From a financial per hour perspective, they're not. Of course, they're going to be making more money, but they're working more hours. So that's, you know what I mean? But like, again, controversial kind of statement, but if you're a self-employed heating engineer or electrician in the UK, you should be making at least 80 grand a year for yourself. So I'm talking,
mate. I would push that even further. I believe that it's in today's market, with all of the inflation that's gone on and the way the world is, you need to be making 100 grand. Genuinely, I think if you're not making 100 grand a year, then you need to take some serious looks and actions in the business to make that happen. Because the time you factor in all of your personal costs that have gone up, you know, that 100 grand sounds a lot of money, right? But in reality, you know, because of the cost of petrol, because of the cost of interest rates, because of the cost of food shops, because of the cost of holidays, because of the cost of school transports, because of the cost of, I could fucking go on and on and on. That 100 grand isn't what you think 100 grand is. Yeah. So that 100 grand is probably the equivalent of, say, 60 to 70 grand 10 years ago. And that's where you're stuck. You're stuck in that era when it's 2025. We're not in 2015 anymore, guys. We've gone through fucking financial crises. We've gone through COVID crises. We've gone through supply chain issues. You know, the world is a different place to 10 years ago. But unfortunately, a lot of the people are stuck in that arena, and it's sad to see.
Yeah, like, you know, people still see 100 grand as a massive amount of money because it looks like.
And granted, it's still decent, but it's not what it was.
No, and if you're not pulling that kind of money, 80 to 100 grand a year, as a takeaway when you're self-employed, then I would argue that, and I kind of used 80 because anything less than 80, you would probably be better working for someone, because when you can go and get a job, a salaried job at 45 grand a year for another heating company, where you're going to get your pension contributions, you're going to get your holiday pay, you're going to get sick pay, you're going to work, 8 till 5 or whatever it is, F8 till 5, you're going to work a structured day, you're going to be given a van with a fuel card and all of that shit that comes with it. If you like, most guys, the guys that are charging 60, 70, 80 quid a boiler service would be better going getting that job, because if you're going to take on all the stress and the risk and the lack of security of working for yourself, you need to be making more than that. But I would say majority of the guys in the UK and across all the Facebook forums are probably only pulling 45 grand a year at best. So then you might as well just go and get a job, and because it's not like you've got loads of freedom like we think we have. When we're in that stage of business, you're probably not, because you're still a slave to the game, aren't you? Then, because you can't have that. I can't have that day off because like you say, I've got bills to pay and things like that. So it all starts with pricing.
It certainly does, and like the minute you take Let me rewind this thought a bit. Sorry, I sort of spoke before I processed the thought properly. So I do that a lot. Once you have the confidence in your pricing becomes easy, right? And what I mean by that is when you're just plucking figures out of your ass based on fucking old metrics and what other people are charging, it's very hard to ooze confidence to that customer because you're not quite sure why you're doing it. When you take the time to use the tool like the pricing calculator, read the report, the profit killer, listening to this podcast with me and Andy, once you fundamentally understand why you charge what you need to charge, pricing becomes an easy part of the job, and it becomes a simple, that is what we charge. There's no ambiguous guessing. You're taking the guesswork out of it, and that, surprisingly, I think it's on a subconscious level here, it resonates with the customer, because when you are fully committed to that and the customer can sense and believe that is correct, and you believe in that, then that helps with delivering that price and ultimately getting that job over the line, because there is no ambiguous circumstances to it. You're not guessing. And if the customer was to question you on it, you can back it up full-heartedly. You wouldn't be fluffing around, umming and ahhing, I don't really know, Mrs. Smith, it's just the going rate. No, bollocks. It's the rate that the business needs to charge. And that is it. And if you want to go into detail, you could go, right, we got these costs, we do this, we do that. These are the service levels that we deliver, this, and this. Obviously, if you're shit and you don't turn up and you don't have any organization, then no, bollocks to you. You shouldn't be charging hard. But if you're a good business and you do it with honesty and you're reliable and you're trustworthy, then you should be doing everything that we've just spoke about.
100.
So let's sort of devil's advocate it then, right? So there'll be people that don't agree with us right now. They will be sitting there saying, I'm the most expensive in the area, I can't put my prices up anymore. Andy, what would you say to that person?
So, I know why you've said that. A conversation we had the other day anyway. Yeah. So, possibly an unpopular opinion again, but my take on this, and this is not based on guesswork. This is based on data that I've monitored myself, and just for some clarity as well, one of the reasons why I am well positioned to be a coach with Off the Tools is that I've got a live heating business that's pretty much running itself that I'm still involved in, because I use the data from it and the metrics from it to help with the coaching of the lads that are in Alliance. And that's where this is born from. So this is going to definitely trigger some comments. So we charge £199 plus VAT for a CP12.
You need that emoji with the cigar and the hat.
For a CP12, which I don't know if anyone else has ever been known to charge that much outside of like Pimlico
and WeFix
kind of thing. And again, for clarity, we are in the Northwest. And it just so happens that I was in the office the other day with the girls, and we used this quoting software that Wayne spoke about, Quotient. And one of the girls had sent the quote out, and a customer had rang in asking why we were 2.5 times more than the next most expensive quote. So to give, what I like to try and do sometimes is just jump on the phone and speak to customers so that the girls can, like Wayne was just saying then, when you believe and know what you're talking about, it exudes a bit more confidence. So I jumped on and I basically ran through all of the reasons why the price is the price that it is. Stuff we've already spoke about, softwares, a team that can support rather than the one-man band thing. But the reason it's of relevance for the purpose of this particular podcast is that if you're the most expensive in the area, you need to fucking own it. There's no point in hovering around and thinking, oh, actually, yeah, I want to be the most expensive in the area. I want to charge the best. Who's the most expensive? Well, he's the most expensive down the road and he's £100, just for the number's sake. So I'm going to charge 105. Well, there's no fucking point in doing that, because you're still operating in the same realms and customers will just see £5. They won't see the difference. But when the next dearest guy is £100 and you're 199 plus that, you're going to get customers. Of course, you're going to get customers who just brush it off. But when the quote's been sent using the right software and they've spoke to the right team before, I'm not talking about you driving along in your van and you pick your phone up and go, oh yeah, well it's £200. No one's going to take that on. But as you grow the business and you build the right structure, when you've got a girl in the office answering the phone and a nice quoting software, and when the job goes ahead, it gets booked in with booking confirmations and the team's well dressed, etc. You can both have the confidence to do that, but when you're charging that pricing, it incites curiosity in people, doesn't it? People like, well, what am I getting more? Like that's the crux of what I'm trying to say. People want to know what the difference is between this £200 one and the £80 one or whatever it is that the next highest price was down the road. You'll get people, not everyone, and the percentage might be small, but when your focus is to extract those premium customers, and for a bit more clarity, we target a lot of home buyers for CP12s as well, because then there's an opportunity to build an ongoing relationship with them. But again, we charge that same for landlords, because again, we're trying to extract landlords who are more of an investor mindset, who want to get a company that will look after the property for them without them having to worry about it. I'm not talking about your cheap landlords, £35 CP12 for only boiler hanging off the wall. But yeah, in short, it incites curiosity and people want to know what the difference is. So obviously it's up to you of how you explain that to the customer. Time on site and the backup of the team and stuff that I was saying before. So, but yeah, this is just a good point that you segued me into. Don't gonna be the most expensive, then be the most fucking expensive. Don't half-ass it and do it and incite that curiosity. But to caveat it again, you do have to bring the value to be able to warrant it. As you've said, if you can't back it up, then there's no
Yeah,
weight to
then
it.
it's not. Yeah, it's not going to last, is it?
You can't just say, "Oh, because I want to." It's like the customer, you're like, "Okay, I'll just go with the cheap guy then."
Yeah, no, I agree. Just on that note, while I'm thinking about it, anyone watching or listening, if you can spare 1 minute, 2 minutes to drop me an email, wayne@offthetools.co.uk, and let me know that the area that you cover and the pricing structure that you're currently using. I'd love to sort of bring this up in another episode once I've got some wider data. Let me know what you're charging for a service. Let me know what you charge for a call out fee. Let me know a few basic costs that you charge. I won't share any personal details. So once I get that data, I'll just have a look over it, and I'll look at what the averages are and things like that. It would just be very interesting to see if there's trends in different parts of the country and things like that. And that also brings me back to the pricing calculator. If you do decide to use the pricing calculator, the more users we get, we will start to get, I put a platform average in here. So we will start to be able to see what is the average charge going around the country once people are using the right costings. So yeah, I would like some emails just in the short term, but longer term, if people are going to use this calculator that I built, it will start to give us an ongoing average around the country, which I just think will be very useful information and just a good discussion, to see if there are any trends in different areas and if there's anything that can be drawn out of that data. So please reach out and let me know some of those costings. That would be brilliant. We've already been going 40 minutes, Andy, so I'm more than happy to continue if there's more to discuss on this. I think we'll probably be approaching this subject numerous times in the future anyway. But is there anything else you wanted to go through today?
No, I think we wait for some of that data to come in. We can compile some of it from the lads in Alliance as well, and then we can revisit it based on that. I think there's always it's going to be a recurring theme because pricing is pricing. It's the foundation, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we'll call that a day for today's episode. I'm going to remind you that you're all too cheap. Put a bit of time aside to do the work, build out, whether you just write it down on a bit of paper or whether you use the tool that we've provided. It's entirely up to you. But fundamentally, get those numbers down, work out what it costs to run the business, what you need to be earning out the business, what profit you need to be earning, and stop being too cheap, guys. All right, no excuses. Let's go.